Welcome to eBible Fellowship's Evening Bible Studies with your host and Bible teacher, Chris McCann. For more studies, visit our website at www.ebiblefellowship.org. And now, here's Chris McCann.
Good evening and welcome to eBible Fellowship's Bible study in the book of Genesis. Tonight is study number 4 in Genesis chapter 35, and we're going to begin reading in verse 3. And let us arise and go up to Bethel, and will make there an altar unto God, who answered me in the day of my distress, and was with me in the way which I went. And they gave unto Jacob all the strange gods which were in their hand, and all their earrings which were in their ears, and Jacob hid them under the oak which was by Shechem. And they journeyed, and the terror of God was upon the cities that were round about them, and they did not pursue after the sons of Jacob. And we can, I think, correctly understand they did not pursue because there was repentance in Israel. They were putting away their strange gods. They were being clean in that sense, and they were hearkening to the call that God moved Jacob to make, to turn from the strange gods, and to be clean and change their garments. And they obeyed. And that shows a degree of humility. It's not necessarily true humility that comes with salvation, but on this one point, they were listening to God. They would later, as we know, turn away once again, and that would be the history of the whole nation. But God, for his own purposes, he put up with their sins time and again, repeatedly, down through the centuries. Well, last time we had gone to Exodus 32, and we saw that there was a relationship between earrings and the idol of the golden calf. And if you remember, when Moses went up to the mount, and he was up 40 days to receive the 10 commandments, while he was there, the people turned to Aaron and told him to make us a god or gods. And Aaron, we read in Exodus 32 verse 2, and Aaron said unto them, break off the golden earrings which are in the ears of your wives, of your sons, and of your daughters, and bring them unto me. And all the people brake off the golden earrings which were in their ears, and brought them unto Aaron. And he received them at their hand, and fashioned it with a graving tool, after he had made it a molten calf. And they said, these be thy gods, O Israel, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. And then it was a little further on, verse 7, and Jehovah said unto Moses, go, get thee down, for thy people, which thou broughtest out of the land of Egypt, have corrupted themselves. They have turned aside quickly out of the way which I commanded them. They have made a molten calf, and have worshipped it, and have sacrificed thereunto, and said, these be thy gods, O Israel, which have brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. So they turned aside. That's that word we saw from Genesis 35, I think it was verse 2. Yeah, verse 2, put away the strange gods that are among you. And that's Strong's number 5493. And it's the same thing here. They turned aside. They turned aside not the strange gods, but they turned aside quickly out of the way which God commanded. And so that word can be used either way, as far as turning away from evil to God, or turning away from God to evil. And we just noticed that the golden earrings were used to fashion the calf. And that helps to explain why Jacob gathered the earrings of Israel and all in the household of Israel, and he got rid of them as well as the strange gods. Now, there's another tie-in with earrings and making an image in Judges. If we go to Judges chapter 8, and this is after Israel once again went aside after strange gods, God raised up oppressors, and then when they cried unto him, he raised up the deliverer Gideon. And Gideon won the battle with the 300 men against the Amalekites, I think it was. And then we read that they wanted Gideon to rule over them, and he would not. In Judges 8, verse 23, and Gideon said unto them, I will not rule over you, neither shall my son rule over you. Jehovah shall rule over you. And Gideon said unto them, I would desire a request of you, that you would give me every man the earrings of his prey. For they had golden earrings because they were Ishmaelites. That's what it was. They were Ishmaelites, not Amalekites. And Ishmaelites are descendants of Ishmael. And Ishmael identifies with those who are of the other covenant. Yes, we know that God has an end time plan to save many descendants of Ishmael, many in Arab lands who were part of the great multitude, but that's another matter. Galatians 4 lays out the two covenants with the two wives of Abraham, Sarah and Hagar, the Egyptian maid. And the Egyptian maid identifies with Mount Sinai in Arabia, where the law was given, and her child Ishmael was the son of that covenant of the law, which means there is no true salvation in that they're unsaved. And so it's characteristic of Ishmaelites, those who are unsaved and therefore of the world of the kingdom of darkness, the kingdom of Satan, to have golden earrings. And this is referring to the men of the army, not their women. These are the earrings of their prey, of those that were defeated in the battle. And it goes on to say in verse 25, and they answered, we will willingly give them. And they spread a garment, and did cast therein every man the earrings of his prey. And the weight of the golden earrings that he requested was 1,700 shekels of gold, beside ornaments and collars and purple raiment that was on the kings of Midian, and beside the chains that were about their camels' necks. And Gideon made an ephod thereof, and put it in his city, even in Ophrah, and all Israel went thither a-whoring after it, which thing became a snare unto Gideon and to his house. And we're surprised that Gideon, because Gideon is the one who tore down the image of Baal when God first appeared to him. And then he did it at night because he was afraid of the inhabitants of the land, the men of Israel round about. And they did come after him, but his father protected him and said, if Baal is so upset, let Baal fight against Gideon for tearing down his image. And so we would expect him to have learned that it's not a good thing to set up any kind of an image, because Israel has a tendency towards idolatry and towards worshiping of idols. And yet, this just shows he was an imperfect man. It would relate to various good kings that we read of Judah, and we can tell they're an elect child of God, that God saved them, and then God would say, yet they did not destroy the high place. They allowed the high place to remain. And it was just the day they were living in. It wasn't the time to remove every high place and casting down imaginations that come against God. No, God kept that in reserve. And the Bible tells us that the Lord winked at these things. He could have impressed upon his people greatly, and sometimes he did, like good King Josiah, who went about cleansing the land of all idols. But for the most part, this impression was not made upon the people of God. And in this case, Gideon foolishly made an ephod of the earrings of his prey. All he had to do was read Exodus, read the account in Exodus 32, and that should have been, enough instruction to teach him. It would not be a good thing at all to do this. And predictably, all Israel went a-whoring after it. And the thing became a snare unto Gideon into his house. It was something that was not pleasing to God. And again, we see it was made out of earrings. It was this ephod, whatever it was put together from the earrings of the Ishmaelites, and it turned into an idol. Well, we can see, therefore, the relationship in verse 4 of Genesis 35. They gave unto Jacob all the strange gods which were in their hand, and all the earrings which were in their ears, and Jacob hid them under the oak which was by Shechem. Why hide these things under the oak? Well, it was handy. That's where they happened to be. We could speculate and suppose that's the reason. It's a tree. That's how people, and some theologians, they think that things in the Bible are just happening and happenstance, coincidence, no deep reason. Of course, they don't understand the Bible. They don't understand the God of the Bible. That God just doesn't talk, and he just doesn't record things and give us a record of history, because this is how it happened, just like secular history. And at such and such a date, this event occurred. And it has no deeper meaning or purpose. No, this is the Word of God, the Bible, and everything has meaning and purpose. And it could have been 100 different kinds of trees. But God says it was an oak tree, and Jacob hid the strange gods that were in their hand and the earrings in their ears. And by the way, I think another point of the earring in the ear would be that taking the earring off the ear, it's sort of the interference of idolatry or idolatrous practices, of even paganism, of our past life and our past understanding of secular doctrine. Like in our time, it would be Big Bangs and evolution. We were taught in schools, the world schools, and these things have to do with our hearing, our understanding, and what we thought was true, and it all proved to be false. So now it's time to be clean, to change your garment, to put off the things of the world, to come out of Babylon and be separate. And so take whether it be maybe growing up in a false religion and all of those errors that have to be put away, or secular society growing up in the world. And there's numerous doctrinal errors that the world puts forth that also has to be put away. And now we believe the Bible. We don't believe evolution. It's a ridiculous theory. We believe Genesis 1, verse 1, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. That's also, I think, in view, and why God says all the earrings which were in their ears. It has to do with hearing the word of Jehovah, hearing the word that follows the cleansing of the soul and salvation, and the changing of the garment when we put on, or God puts on us, the righteousness of Christ's garment. Well, again, the oak by Shechem. We find a very interesting passage in Joshua. I don't think we're going to have time to lay this all out, but if we go to Joshua chapter 24, we're going to find Israel is gathered together at Shechem. At Shechem, exactly where the oak tree is. And it says in Joshua 24, verse 1, "And Joshua gathered all the tribes of Israel to Shechem, and called for the elders of Israel, and for their heads, and for their judges, and for their officers. And they presented themselves before God. And Joshua said unto all the people, Thus saith Jehovah God of Israel, Your fathers dwelt on the other side of the flood in old time." That's the other side of the river. "Even Terah, the father of Abraham and the father of Nachor, and they served other gods. And I took your father Abraham from the other side of the flood, and led him throughout all the land of Canaan, and multiplied his seed, and gave him Isaac," and so forth. And then God recounts Israel being brought out of Egypt. And the point is, and that's when we get to verse 14 of Joshua 24, "Now therefore fear Jehovah, and serve him in sincerity and in truth, and put away the gods." Yes, that's the same Hebrew word, 5493, sir. "Put away the gods which your fathers served on the other side of the flood and in Egypt, and serve ye Jehovah. And if it seem evil unto you to serve Jehovah, choose you this day whom ye will serve, whether the gods which your fathers served that were on the other side of the flood, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land ye dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve Jehovah." And this is always put forth by free will pastors because it has the word choose in it. "Choose you this day whom you will serve." And notice, though, this is what the free will pastor misses and doesn't tell their congregation, is that it's a choice between false gods. Choose this false god or that false god. It's not that man can choose the God of the Bible. No, Jesus said, "You have not chosen me, but I have chosen you." That's the only way we can avoid doing service to false gods and worshiping idols as if God has chosen us. But anyway, it's at Shechem. This is at Shechem that Joshua has gathered all Israel. He's gathered them together, and he's saying the exact same thing that Jacob said, and this would be 500 years earlier, 1907 BC, and we know the conquest of Canaan took place after 1407, so it's a little over 500 years. 1407 and 1907 is exactly 500, but it took a few years to bring the total victory of the land of Canaan. And now, after the victory, the gathering together of all Israel, put away the strange gods. Put them away. And if we read further along here in Joshua 24, verse 20, if ye forsake Jehovah and serve strange gods, then he will turn and do you hurt and consume you after that he has done you good. And the people said unto Joshua, Nay, but we will serve Jehovah. And Joshua said unto the people, Ye are witnesses against yourselves. They have chosen you, Jehovah, to serve him. And they said, We are witnesses. Now here it does say they've chosen Jehovah, but that's why Joshua says you're a witness against yourself, because they cannot serve Jehovah. It's not in their nature to serve Jehovah, which is why they will turn again and again and again away from serving Jehovah throughout their history. But again, in verse 23, now therefore put away, that's our word, 54:93, put away, said he, the strange gods which are among you, and incline your heart unto Jehovah God of Israel. Don't just make some kind of determination, I'm going to serve the Lord, serve Jehovah, but you need a change of heart. You need a new heart and a new spirit to do so. And the people, verse 24, said unto Joshua, Jehovah our God we will serve, and his voice will we obey. So Joshua made a covenant with the people that day, and set them a statute and an ordinance in Shechem. And Joshua wrote these words in the book of the law of God, and took a great stone, and set it up there under an oak that was by the sanctuary of Jehovah. And Joshua said unto all the people, Behold, this stone shall be a witness unto us, for it has heard all the words of Jehovah which he spake unto us. It shall be therefore a witness unto you, lest ye deny your God. So Joshua let the people depart, every man unto his inheritance. You notice it's at Shechem, the command to put away your gods and serve Jehovah, and also they set up a stone as a witness. And where did they set it up? Under an oak, under an oak tree in Shechem. We can't get a more definite tie-in than what's going on in Genesis 35. Put away your strange gods. And then they gave them unto Jacob, all the strange gods in their hand, all their earrings in their ears, and Jacob hid them under the oak which was by Shechem. Well, again, it makes us even more curious, doesn't it? But unfortunately, we have come to the end of our time in this study. Lord willing, in our next study, we'll try to understand the significance of the oak tree and why the strange gods are hidden underneath it, and also the tie-in in the book of Joshua.
Thank you for joining us for eBible Fellowship's Evening Bible Studies with your host and Bible teacher, Chris McCann. For more studies and information, visit our website at www.ebiblefellowship.org. Until our next Bible study, may the Lord's perfect will be done.